When we left off talking the last time, I may have given the impression that my career was toast after Vanity. And it actually was, at least as far as with the mainstream record business, being a hotshot Hollywood record producer. But that did not become apparent until I had struggled through 4 or 5 years of painful things where everything I touched had the opposite of the Midas touch, didn't turn to gold. It didn't become obvious, and I charged straight ahead after finishing Vanity's record because I was still signed to Solar as an artist and a producer, and it was time for my second album. So the topic for today is that second album. What happened to it? Where did it go? And I'm grateful that after about 26 years, this became this. Because, you know, if an album doesn't make the jump from the, one format to the next, that means that nobody's willing to take the gamble of pressing up 500 copies. Unidisc Music put this out, and they had bought the rights to Solar's catalog. And I have mixed feelings about this because I'm grateful that it finally made it to CD, because otherwise it winds up being like that movie you like that's on VHS, but they didn't make it into a DVD, and you don't have a VHS player anymore. And why would you? So you want your album to be on CD, whether, regardless of where you fall into the digital, analog, vinyl, whatever. It's got to be on this, or it's just like fades away into obscurity. So I'm grateful to this on 2 accounts, because the one thing that would have been totally lost is what is identified on the back of this as previously unreleased. And yeah, it was unreleased, and but it was a completely finished album that went all the way to the mix and mastering stage and had been handed in, and for reasons that I still don't understand, it did not get released. But I know what the core of the problem was. There were 2 problems. The first of which is that Dick Griffey and I started having a tug-of-war about money over the royalties that I was due as a producer for Dancing in the Sheets from the Footloose soundtrack. We had negotiated a separate deal for that because the film was with Paramount, the soundtrack was with Columbia, CBS, now Sony. And it was just the normal deal that I would have had if I was producing something for Solar. There was so many points of the record, and I keep my publishing, blah, 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 all this and that. It was a completely separate agreement from the agreement we already had. But somewhere along the way, maybe it was after Footloose had sold 3 million, or maybe it was after it got to 5 million, or it's probably before it got to 8 million copies. But somewhere along the way, Dick Griffey felt like I should be happy. He actually told me that I should be happy with the fee that I got, the producer's fee, which was $15,000, and let it go at that. I didn't agree. Finally, I get a hit record, and what, you don't want to pay me. So, and all this happened right at the tail end of my recording this record. The second problem was that Dick did not believe in what I was doing. And it was weird because I had gotten the impression that he had launched Constellation Records, which I was actually signed, it was a subsidiary of Solar. Constellation Records. He wanted that to be his pop label. And I'm going to be, I mean, there's an article that I didn't even see that was in Billboard, I think before I even got signed, that he announced he was launching Constellation to be a pop label. He wanted Constellation to be Blue-Eyed Soul, but then I turned toward a more pop direction with the second album, and Dick didn't like it. And he said that the single, you couldn't dance to it. And the single was a song that I wrote with Dean Pitchford called You Are One Sunny Day. Extremely poppy. I could not write more of a pop song. In fact, it was influenced by Elton John's I'm Still Standing. Directly influenced. Might even be in the same key, I don't know. But I loved that song the first time I heard it. And it called back to all those old Motown songs. So Dick telling me, you can't dance to it. And I said, but it's that Motown beat that you know, it's been on a million Motown records from, you know, Marvin Gaye, Can I Get a Witness, and Martha and the Vandellas, Heat Wave, and Jimmy Mack, and the Supremes, My World is Empty Without You, all had that really up-tempo, triplet-based beat. And that's exactly what this was, and that's what Elton John's "I'm Still Standing" was. And Dick just said, no, people don't dance to that stuff anymore. And he was, in his mind, it was like I was bringing him a cover of Chubby Checkers, Let's Twist Again, like we did last summer. But it wasn't like that. I consciously took more of a turn toward pop music, but it was just about a 15 to 30 degree shift from what I had been doing, because it was still very much rooted in R&B. And in fact, I had signed a black singer, a very talented young guy named DeVere Duckett, who these days, just by way of coincidence, is with Al McKay's Earth, Wind and Fire experience. So yes, the music business is a small world. It was back then. But one of the things that I decided to do with the second album is that I decided that the notion of guest vocalist was not sustainable, because I'm going to have a guest vocalist, and I had, you know, two of the three of them on Wolf album. They went on to have their own deals, and I probably could have used John Gibson again, or no, I think he had actually left by then. He got mad at Solar and left. But you know, Finest wasn't available anymore because Finest got a deal with Motown. And so I thought, what I need to do is find a singer that can just be the voice of my albums. And I'll sign him to my production company. And that's what I did. I found DeVere, and he wasn't really keen on signing a deal with me, but a lot of negotiating and reassurances, and he got a lawyer, and I had Vigoda, and we made a deal, and DeVere was signed to my production company to sing the entire record. And the idea being that if the record took off, then he's committed to appearing again. The other thing that made me want to take the album into more of a pop direction was that things were changing, and the biggest change was MTV. And I think everybody overreacted to MTV, but in the short time between when they launched in 1981 and now, this was 1984, it's like if your stuff wasn't on MTV, it didn't exist. That's how it felt. That wasn't true. But they were the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And plus, I was watching a lot of MTV, and I was getting influenced and liking a lot of what I heard, the synth pop stuff and Eurythmics and the Police. You know, and it wasn't that big of a pivot for me because I started out playing rock. You know, my first garage bands, we're playing Santana and Led Zeppelin songs, and we were playing rock and roll. So it wasn't that much of a pivot for me to go into more of a rock place. And the title song, the album did have a title. It was called The Hard Way. And by the time this comes out, I'm going to redo the playlist that these songs are in and at least give this album its own playlist. And I'll put new thumbnails on it so it's easily identified, because the title of the album was The Hard Way. And I'm going to give a credit line featuring DeVere Duckett, because he did a good job. He was young and he was a little tentative. It was hard to get him to bust loose, but he gave up some good voices. He's got a great voice, just big, sings from his chest. And the songs, I got back together with Dean Pitchford, who wrote Fame and, all the songs in Footloose. Very talented guy, and wrote 3 songs with him for the album. One of which was the single that Dick Griffey didn't like. I mean, I don't even like talking about this because Dick Griffey's not here to defend himself. One thing I want to emphasize is that I have all the respect in the world for Dick Griffey, as I mentioned in the videos for making the Wolf album. What he built was amazing. It was Berry Gordy, and then Dick Griffey, and that was basically about it for black-owned record companies. And to be able to do that was an amazing accomplishment, and Dick Griffey was a force of nature, and I had a lot of respect for him. But having said that, he and I did not always see eye to eye, and we would butt heads. I still, to this day, have much respect for him, and I'm sorry that he's not here, and I would love to know his side of the story, but that's not available. I don't remember all the details because it was a very dark time for me. I mean, it was just, it was 9 months before we cleared it, before we straightened it out. And finally got Dick to agree that, to honor the agreement that he had made, and that in the future I had to get paid directly from Paramount. And I'm trying really hard to remember. I've been, I knew this was going to be the subject for the next video, so I run it back over in my mind. I've been in a bad mood all week because of it, because it was just really a horrible time. Because after I finished the record, I think there was a time when I held back handing in the masters. And then I relented on that, and I think he held back on or maybe maybe I had handed it in, and he was holding back on releasing it as a carrot to get me to give in. I don't remember the details, but this album got lost, and it was because really, in the end, besides the tussling over royalties, Dick didn't hear it. He didn't like it. And if the owner of the label doesn't believe in the record, he's not really inclined to put more money, in promoting it. If you don't promote a record, it doesn't happen, And I've seen pictures of the single. You can see it on Discogs. And I've seen, there's a picture of a cassette, this Mark promo. We never even got to doing a cover design. And then other things happened, and it just seemed like things just got crazier and crazier. And eventually there wasn't any more Solar. So this album never saw the light of day. So in some respects, I'm grateful that Unidisc put it out as, previously unreleased bonus tracks. I'm also like, damn, it should have its own release, because it's a different thing, and it sounds kind of weird to just, you know, fast forward 2 years and go from the vibe that I was in when I did the Wolf album to this, which was basically a whole different thing. It was a shift. I was still writing and arranging the songs, except for one cover of a Jimi Hendrix song. But it was a different direction. But for me, it was not a problem because you know, like I said, I played rock. I like rock. I like jazz. I like all kind of music. But I was shooting for that pop thing. I mean, it's like you listen to the second song. That one was inspired by the Police, "Every Breath You Take," and also Michael Sembello's "Maniac." If you threw those two in a blender, then you get "I Will Get to You," which has a lot of drama to it, and you can hear that Rhodes piano playing that ostinato line as the chords change, and it's nice stuff. But anyway, so it never happened, and I listened to it to get ready for this video, and I liked it. You know, it is different from Wolf, but it's still me. And DeVere did a good job, and it just didn't work out. There's just nothing you can do. All I could do was be in the studio and do the best that I could. And then if I come up with something, and the owner of the label doesn't feel it, then I'm sunk, right? And the weird thing about this is that Dick Griffey started a label for pop music. I think if I had seen that article that was in Billboard, it might have made me feel funny about even signing with him, because I didn't want to be, you know, I don't want to be there because of I'm the blue-eyed soul. Because I don't think music has a color, you know. And here I'm moving more in a pop vein, but I've still got a black singer. Sly said music doesn't have color, and I agree with that. I mean, certainly this music came out of the African American experience, but that doesn't mean that you have to be part of that experience to do it, as long as you respect it and you know, study it, make it bona fide. Maybe by going too far into the pop side, I was making the same mistake Vanity did, because I was signed to a black-owned label. When Vanity told me she wanted to make a pop album, I said, "You're signed to Motown." She didn't care. But Dick Griffey created Constellation Records to be the pop wing of Solar Records. It didn't happen. What can you say? We all learn the hard way.